The sky burned in shades of red and violet as the Zeral Dominion fleet hovered above the smoldering remains of Calderis 4. Ash rained in soft drifts, coating blackened bones and twisted metal. From the bridge of the dreadnought Zephin's Claw, Commander Varkle watched with muted interest, one clawed finger swirling the contents of a crystalline flask. Resistance was minimal, reported Subcommander Grex, eyes unblinking. Only pockets of local militia. Farmers with railguns. Entertaining, in a primitive sort of way. Varkle didn't look at him. His gaze remained fixed on the scorched planet below. Have the bodies cleaned up. I don't like clutter in my conquest footage. Grex gave a tight nod. Understood. Behind them, holograms flickered, live feeds from drones sweeping through what remained of Calderis 4's capital. Buildings collapsed into ash. Civilians, their faces blank, stumbled into containment pods. A child screamed once and was silenced by a biopulse restraint. The feed cut abruptly. Bored already, Varkle muttered, setting his flask down with a soft clink. 12 systems, and not a single true fight. These humans are a myth built on old propaganda. They've bled, yes, Grex said, tone measured. But they don't seem to evolve. Varkle's brow ridges arched in amusement. That's the thing about prey. They don't get smarter. They only get quieter. He tapped the tactical display and zoomed in on the next target. Sol system. A bright blue planet, deceptively serene. Earth. I want a spectacle this time, Varkle said. Record every blast. I want them to see their gods abandon them in high definition. An officer down the bridge chuckled. Another made a snide remark in Shirili. The mood was light, victorious, almost festive. 3 days later, the Dominion fleet entered Sol space. It began like the others. Interference from human satellites, automated warnings from obsolete defense arrays, silence from planetary comms. Varkle leaned back in his command chair, relaxed, expectant. Then their lead ship disappeared. No explosion. No trace. Just vanished mid-warp approach. What was that? Grex asked sharply, stepping forward. Before anyone could respond, another ship winked out. Then 2 more. Then 6 in a heartbeat. Gravity traps, Varkle snarled. Where are they coming from? A junior tech stammered. We're not detecting anything on standard. A pulse wave exploded across the fleet, non-lethal but devastating. Engines flickered. Shields failed. Command relays crashed. Half the fleet spiraled out of formation in chaos. They knew we were coming, Grex whispered, pale. On Earth, buried beneath a charred battlefield once known as Montana Ridge, a figure clawed through ash and debris toward a half-buried Dominion dropship. He was shirtless, covered in soot and blood, each muscle tensed as if forged from the battlefield itself. His name was Callan Reich, former Earth Marine, one of the few surviving soldiers from Calderis 4, now back on Earth with a mission no one believed he'd live to carry out. The ship before him groaned, metal scorched and twisted. A Dominion scout vessel, left for dead after the first pulse wave hit. Callan grabbed the door's locking mechanism with both hands. It hissed and burned beneath his touch. He pulled. The mechanism refused. Sparks leapt. Callan's back arched, every scar and tattoo along his skin straining. The alien runes, inked into his arms, pulsed once. Then again, this time glowing with faint blue light. Inside the ship, dormant systems flickered awake. A low hum filled the air. The door unlocked with a final hiss and swung open. Callan staggered forward, panting. The interior of the vessel lit up, soft blue lighting bathing him in sterile glow. Identification recognized, said a voice, smooth and cold. Welcome, Commander. He froze. The tattoos glowed brighter, patterns crawling up his neck, shoulders, chest, responding not to him, but through him. The ship was no longer dormant. He stepped forward, instinct pulling him deeper into the vessel. Panels adjusted as he moved. Screens flared to life. One displayed a celestial map. Sol at the center, Earth surrounded by concentric rings of tactical data. All of it written in Dominion language, except where it wasn't. One symbol flickered repeatedly, an emblem carved into his left shoulder. A serpent swallowing stars. Callan didn't know its meaning. Not really. Only what they'd told him during Aegis induction. If it ever activates, don't run. Walk in. The ship's AI voice returned, gentler now. Primary interface DNA confirmed. Gene bond complete. Dominion override successful. Commander Reich, Earth defense grid is yours. He exhaled sharply. Back on the Zephyrin's claw, panic had taken full root. Ships were breaking off from formation. Messages went unanswered. Internal comms flickered between static and human broadcasts, strange, crisp declarations in plain language. Target 0 acquired. Hostile movements predictable. Initiating phase breakveil in T-600 seconds. Who the hell is sending these? Barked Varkle. Jam the frequencies. We can't, said Grex, teeth bared. They're already inside our systems. Varkle turned to the main screen. A feed flickered on. Not human military command. Callan Reich, standing shirtless in the Dominion scout ship. Blue light pouring from the alien tattoos as if his veins were rewritten. His eyes calm. His voice steady. You shouldn't have come here, Callan said. We weren't hiding. We were watching. The feed cut. Silence fell across the bridge. What is he? Someone whispered. Varkle's grip tightened on the rail. He's wrong. That's what he is. But deep inside something cracked. For the first time since the war began, Varkle felt the sour churn of doubt. On Earth, Callan stepped out of the ship and looked to the sky. Dominion vessels hung like rotting fruit, their movements erratic. He touched the side of his head. Command Reich here. Ship recognized me. Earth grid is coming online. Full access granted. A pause. Then a voice crackled back. Steady. Copy that. Welcome home, Commander. Callan looked down at the alien metal under his feet, technology once thought unknowable. Now responding like it had waited for him. This wasn't survival anymore. It was the beginning. From orbit, Earth looked deceptively calm, its oceans vast and untouched, its continents cloaked in swaths of green and cloud. But the Dominion fleet now drifted in disarray above it, broken formations like shattered teeth in the void. Inside the Dominion flagship Zephyrin's claw, Commander Varkle stood before a curved viewport, jaw clenched, pupils dilated in something approaching rage or fear. Systems officers whispered from their pits, passing half-translated reports and diagnostic failures. The fleet wasn't just destabilized, it was unraveling. Instruments lied. Coordinates looped. Auto-targeting scrambled itself in reverse. The enemy hadn't fired a shot. What did we miss? Varkle growled. What was Earth hiding? Grex, ever calculating, spoke without looking up. Not a weapon. A seed. Varkle turned on him. Explain. They didn't defend themselves because they didn't have to, Grex said, voice tight. They let us come. Let us touch the core. And now it's responding. You mean he's responding? Grex hesitated. Yes. The image of Callan Reich burned behind Varkle's eyes, the calm in his voice, the certainty, the way the Dominion ship had opened to him like a shrine welcoming its high priest. Reich didn't ask for control. He was control. And that disturbed something ancient in Varkle's instincts. He's human, Varkle said flatly. He bled like prey on Calderis. Grex didn't respond. He didn't have to. They had both seen what happened there. Below them, buried beneath the crust of North America, Callan stood on the command deck of the reactivated Dominion scout vessel. Now tethered to Earth's deep defense lattice, Project WYRM. A system buried so deep in classified layers that even Earth's remaining governments had forgotten it existed. But Callan hadn't. The tattoos running along his arms glowed brighter now, syncing with the core AI of the ship. They weren't decorative. They were keys. Biometric encryption bonded at the genetic level to WYRM's control protocols. The AI voice resonated again, neutral but intimate. Phase breakveil ready. 72 Dominion ships within firing radius. Do you wish to initiate containment pattern Omega? Callan didn't answer immediately. His fists clenched, the glow flaring, then dimming. He saw their faces again, the children in containment pods on Calderis, the farmhands dying with rifles in their hands. His commanding officer torn apart in orbit while command delayed response for evaluation. This wasn't vengeance. It was balance. Target only weapons and command nodes, he said at last. No kill shots unless engaged. Confirmed, said the AI. Lights along the hull of the vessel flickered, then streamed skyward. Invisible beams of coded signal burst from hidden Earth satellite. Space twisted. On Zephin's claw, alarms screamed. Weapons control offline. Navigation down. We've been locked inside our own shields. Varkle spun toward the tactical display. Find the source and cut it out. A new feed blinked into existence on the main screen. Not from Earth. It showed footage. Not live archival. A montage of human wars. Not the clean, strategic strikes of Dominion conquest, but raw, brutal violence. The trenches of the 20th century. The desert warfare of the 21st, entire cities reduced to smoking holes. Guerrilla ambushes. Kamikaze detonations. Chemical burns. Tactical betrayals. The screaming. Always the screaming. The feed ended in silence. One Dominion officer whispered, "They did this to themselves?" "No wonder their minds fracture," said another, shivering. But Grex wasn't shivering. He was thinking. "They don't fight like we do," he murmured. "They fight like nothing matters, until everything does. That's why we never saw this coming." Varkle turned on him. "Are you defecting in spirit now, Grex? I'm saying we underestimated their pattern. They weren't building for survival. They were building to trigger. Like a virus waiting for the right host." Varkle hissed, but didn't argue. Deep down, the thought had already infected him too. Back on Earth, the scout ship's command interface widened, revealing more sectors. Dormant drones in the asteroid belt, deep-sea installations long presumed dead, even outposts once declared early failures, now lighting up like stars. None of it weaponized overtly. But every node had teeth. And Callan was at the center of it. He paced the command deck, speaking through secure EarthNet channels. "Status on civilian sectors?" "Stable," a voice responded. "Most haven't even seen a skyshift." The Pulse scrambled their overhead optics first. "And the fleet?" "Paralyzed. At least for now. The old war satellites. They're recognizing the Dominion vessels by shape and software patterns." "Keep that edge," Callan said. "This isn't conquest. This is containment." Another voice, graveled, feminine, broke in. "You always this diplomatic when the wolves are at the door, Reich?" He smiled faintly. "Only when they look surprised to find teeth." She chuckled. "We just got data from Lunar. You made the Dominion twitch. I need more than twitching. I need them thinking." Above, the Zephin's claw drifted. Varkle had called for silence across the fleet, cutting comms to block psychological warfare. But in that silence, doubts festered. Grex stood before a console, reviewing Reich's broadcast again. Slowing the audio. Enhancing the signal. His spines twitched as he parsed deeper subcode embedded beneath the message. "Commander," he said slowly. "That ship Reich's in, it's not just responding. It's syncing. Updating. As if it was meant for him." Varkle's expression darkened. "You think they cracked Dominion tech?" Grex didn't look up. "I think this was Dominion tech." Varkle approached, claws clicking on metal. "Explain." 30 cycles ago," Grex said, voice hushed, "our scouts reported a lost research vessel near the Orion Rift. No survivors. Ship presumed destroyed. What was it researching? Hybrid command interfaces. Organic AI bonding. Experimental sovereignty protocols." Varkle's breath caught. "They didn't steal it," Grex said. "They found it. And somehow, through war or wisdom or madness, they made it theirs. The bridge fell deathly quiet. Then, for the first time since the campaign began, Varkle gave a command not laced in confidence. Prepare for withdrawal. Quietly. But it was already too late. Across the fleet, dormant Dominion ships began losing power, not by attack but by surrender, as if they recognized a superior authority now and obeyed. The tactical map on Varkle's screen shifted. A single symbol rose to dominance. Not Earth's flag. Not a human seal. The serpent swallowing stars. Callan's tattoo. Earth hadn't just survived. It had inherited the throne. The Dominion High Council chamber, once a place of impassive ritual and arrogant pronouncements, now echoed with disorder. Translucent data glyphs flickered midair, disintegrating faster than they could be read. Planetary systems across the rim were going dark. Communications lost, resource convoys vanished mid-jump, listening posts reduced to sterile silence. The chamber's symmetry had been shattered, both architecturally and politically. Commander Varkle stood alone in the center, ringed by the semi-holographic projections of council members across the Empire, some flickering with poor signal, others blurred by firelight from burning homeworlds. No one sat tall anymore. Even the high strategos leaned forward with the hunch of doubt. "This is not a war," Varkle said slowly, voice measured. "It is a correction." Counselor Sazek, gaunt and twitching with fear, hissed through clenched teeth. "Then correct it, Commander. These humans are no longer just human." Varkle's eyes scanned the room, daring contradiction. "They have weaponized silence. Their strategy is subtraction. They remove what you count on, not with noise, but with absence." Counselor Vrel, whose family bloodlines stretched back before Dominion stars, sneered. "You sound as though you admire them." "I fear them." That landed like a thunderclap. "Fear," Sazek repeated. "You?" "The one who raised the Varney's arcologies with a single orbital volley." Varkle nodded. "Yes, because the Varneys screamed when they burned. These humans, they don't scream. They dismantle." The chamber dimmed momentarily. Another system had gone offline. No explosion, no comms, just gone. And still, no retaliation came from the humans. No threats. No declarations. Just a surgical erasure of infrastructure and illusion. Back aboard the ancient ship orbiting Earth, Callan Reich watched as hundreds of Dominion vessels floated adrift in geosynchronous orbit, their cores disabled, their crews quarantined in stasis. No blood had been spilled. No shots fired. The command tattoos along his arms pulsed like breathing light, syncing with the ship's latent intelligence. Mara entered, breathless, a black datapad clutched in one hand. "They're panicking." "I know. They've started recalling their outer fleet. Even the Red Spear Armada has been rerouted from the Jeanne corridor. They think retreat will save them." She stared at him. "Will it?" Callan finally looked away from the holographic battlefield. Not from themselves. She sat across from him at the long black console, brushing soot from her sleeves. "You're calm about this. About everything. I remember you couldn't sleep through the night without waking in a sweat. That was before I realized the nightmares weren't mine. They were rehearsals." "For what?" "This." Mara hesitated. "You're not afraid of becoming like them, are you?" "No," he said, and this time, the answer came without hesitation. "Because I already did. And I chose to turn back." She didn't know how to answer that, so she changed the subject. WYRM cracked the outer node of their military archives. "We got footage." "Of what?" "Historical reviews. Education reels. Propaganda and something stranger." Varkle watching ancient human war archives. Callan raised an eyebrow. "Send it to the table." The console flickered, and the hollow projection shifted to show the Dominion commander alone in a dark chamber, eyes flicking across brutal clips. Omaha Beach, Stalingrad, Sarajevo, Fallujah. Not dramatizations. Raw footage. Humanity at its most desperate, resilient, and terrifying. No words were spoken in the recording. Just Varkle watching in silence. Mara's voice was low. He's studying us. Callan murmured, no. He's trying to understand us. There's a difference. A beat passed. He knows he's already lost, Callan said. Mara frowned. Then why hasn't he surrendered? Because he doesn't understand how to lose. Callan paused, then added, not yet. Across space, Varkle stood on the edge of a crumbling frontier platform, overlooking what had once been a planetary forge world. Now it was cold and hollow, stripped bare by the invisible claws of Earth's newfound precision fleet. The forge's planetary ring had been reduced to drifting slag. Grex approached slowly. 3 more sectors fell silent. Varkle nodded, not reacting. Grex continued. The humans offered terms. That caught his attention. What terms? He asked sharply. They will not enter Dominion territory. They will not destroy the inner worlds, but they will dismantle all offensive infrastructure. If we interfere, they will remove the core suns one by one. The silence between them could have shattered planets. They've become the storm we feared others might one day be, Grex said. Varkle turned slowly. And now? Grex met his gaze. Now we decide if we survive the storm or disappear in silence. Varkle walked past him without a word. Back aboard the ancient ship, Callan stood within the inner vault, the true command chamber, where the original Dominion architects had once ruled by thought alone. Now, their ghost architecture bent toward him. The walls responded to his biofrequency like a heartbeat, casting swirling symbols of both origin and divergence. He reached toward the center console. With a gesture, he summoned a projection of the known galaxy. Hundreds of glowing Dominion systems, once burning bright, now flickered like dying embers. The human systems, once scattered and weak, burned blue and constant. Mara stood beside him. They don't know how we did it. Good. They'll try to find out. They'll fail. He turned to her, his voice softer now. But they'll learn something more important. What's that? He studied the map for a long time before answering. That humanity never needed to be saved. We just needed to be remembered. Far beyond Earth, within the final council enclave, Varkle stood before the last assembled members of the ruling caste. This time, there was no room for arrogance. No robes of power. Just a silent table, a fading empire, and a choice. I propose we surrender, he said without preamble. Gasp. Outrage. Shouting. I propose we survive. A young commander slammed her fist on the table. We do not yield. Varkle met her fury with quiet resolve. You already have. You just don't recognize the silence of defeat. He turned to the others. They won't enslave us. They won't colonize. They've already said it. But they will leave us behind. The chamber fell still. If we do not bend, Varkle said, we will be forgotten, erased not by weapons but by irrelevance. That is how the war ends. And for once, no one interrupted him. Callan stood aboard the command cradle, looking down at Earth. The AI's voice returned, gentle now, almost reverent. Dominion Council transmission intercepted. Play it. Varkle's voice echoed in the chamber. We yield. Not out of fear. Not out of weakness. But because we now understand. We were not the apex. We were the lesson. Callan's eyes closed briefly. He didn't smile. There was no triumph. Only the final, immense silence of an empire choosing humility. And in that silence, a new sound began to stir, the quiet forging of a future no longer built on domination, but on warning. The galaxy was listening. But Earth was no longer speaking. It was acting. The chamber was carved from obsidian and silence. Varkle stood alone at its center, no longer adorned in ceremonial warplate. The Dominion sigil on his chest had been stripped, replaced by a simple dark tunic. Across from him, suspended in a gravity-neutral stasis arc, hovered the seal of Earth's new galactic authority, a simple triangle embedded with fractal stars, endlessly shifting. The envoy entered, human, tall, burn-scarred along one cheek, and entirely devoid of armor or weaponry. He moved like someone who knew a room was already his. Varkal, the envoy said with a curt nod. Commander Reich sends his acknowledgement. You've been chosen. Varkal's jaw tensed. Chosen. As planetary administrator. You'll govern this system under Earth's guidance. You retain local autonomy. So long as no fleets rise, no warforges reignite, and no conscripts are bred. In return, you get peace, education, food, infrastructure. Varkal looked away. We once brought those things too. And now you'll understand the cost of what you brought. There was no venom in the words. Only history. Only quiet retribution disguised as diplomacy. He turned back. Why me? The envoy paused. Because you understood what surrender meant before anyone else did. That earns a measure of trust. The silence between them drew long, but it wasn't tense. Just heavy. Do you believe this peace will hold? Varkal finally asked. The envoy shrugged slightly. Not forever. But long enough for something better to take root. Varkal studied the envoy with a surgeon's intensity. You don't celebrate. There's nothing to celebrate, the envoy said, almost gently. We had to become something monstrous to survive what you forced us into. Now we have to find our way back. If we can. And then, without fanfare, he was gone. Varkal stood for a long time before turning toward the open window overlooking what was once the primary military shipyard. The skeletons of half-built dreadnoughts now housed farms and atmospheric recyclers. The children below, no longer trained in simulations of combat, ran through misted gardens with laughter in their wake. It was surreal. And deeply unfamiliar. Across the stars, far above what had once been the Dominion core worlds, Callan Reich sat alone in the command cradle. The ship had gone quiet. Not dead, just resting. As if it, too, had fulfilled its purpose. He hadn't spoken in hours. Mara entered softly, carrying a single datapad and a flask of steaming tea. She set both down beside him and waited. After a moment, Callan picked up the pad. It displayed a compilation of Dominion survivors, a tally of those who'd accepted Earth's terms. The numbers were rising. So they're adapting, he murmured. Or pretending to. Pretending's a start. She sat beside him, watching the stars wheel past through the view panel. The silence was comfortable now. Not the heavy, war-thick kind of before, but a quiet wrapped in breath and distant light. You never wanted this, she said. No. But you knew it would come. I did. She took a long sip. And now that it's here? Callan didn't answer right away. He reached out, brushing his fingertips over the panel. The ship responded with a slow pulse, as though waking from a dream. I think, he said at last, we've won the wrong war. But maybe we can still shape the right peace. The console flickered. An alert pulsed, anomalous activity detected in the outer expanse. Not hostile. Not yet. But curious. Mara leaned forward. Another fleet? Callan scanned the telemetry. No. A signal. Unknown origin. Directional. Precise. She raised an eyebrow. Another race? Maybe. The old ship, ancient and reborn, began aligning toward the signal, its engines humming low like a memory reigniting. Callan stood, the glow of the tattoos across his arms syncing with the controls again. The ship responded like an extension of breath. You're going out there? He nodded. If we are the warning now, we have to carry it forward. Not as conquerors. As something else. As evidence. She stood with him. I'm not staying behind. I wasn't going to ask you to. Below them, Earth was calm. Rebuilt. Quietly bristling with newfound strength, but not flaunting it. Humanity didn't burn banners anymore. They encoded them in protocols, embedded in fleets that didn't need names. The ship began to move, shifting orientation. It passed the orbital ring silently, undisturbed by ceremony or fanfare. Only a ripple across gravimetric lanes marked its departure. In the Dominion's former core, Varkal watched the same departure from a projection cube, standing on a balcony that overlooked the city he now governed. His advisors asked questions behind him, supply chain requests, education matrix suggestions, but he tuned them out. He stared at the human ship carving its path through the stars, and whispered something to himself in the old Dominion tongue. Not a curse. Not a prayer. A wish. He hoped they wouldn't come back the same. He hoped they'd find something better. And somewhere deep inside the ship, in a room that hadn't opened in millennia, lights flickered on. The AI's voice returned, not as a guide but a companion. Coordinates set. Signal origin, unknown. Callan exhaled. Take us in. As the stars bent around them and space folded inward, he knew this wasn't the end. It was only the end of what humanity used to be. What came next was unknown. But for the first time, in a very long time, Callan Reich wasn't afraid of that.